Board games. We might be talking about UK Games Expo, but we're not gonna shout. I guess now it's my belief that we're going to have a debrief, and we are going to chat about what went well, what was fantastic, and what was, well, what maybe we might want to change, because we've just don't do just one thing. There is a range. Debrief of UK Games Expo, it's what we're talking about. A debrief of UK Games Expo, and we're not gonna shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. I am Bez, and this is Jess.
Hello!
And it's time for Bezzy Beats and Board Game Leather. And today we are having a debrief, because where have we been last weekend, Jess?
We have been at UK Games Expo, which is in Birmingham, which is part of the NEC, and it was absolutely brilliant and enormous and incredibly tiring and all of those things in a really good way.
And we were actually bunking together. I had these two rooms because I knew that I would want quite a few helpers based on 2019. I got 2 dorms of 6 beds each, and even though I think on the Monday night we were only half full, I think it was worth their prices are different based on the day. So Saturday and Sunday are a lot more expensive than midweek, interestingly. It's literally double the price. So the extra Monday was that was probably worth it, just to not have to rearrange all our stuff and gather together. But yeah, so we had some similarities, including the address from which we were embarking each day. We were both there at the same event, but there were a lot of differences, and I thought we could maybe compare and contrast.
Yeah. So with any Games Expo, well, in fact, with most big events like this, there are loads of things where you look back and there are some things which are about the specific games you were doing, things where you go, oh, that worked well, that I could do differently, etc. But then there are also loads of practicalities and things where you're like, okay, would I would I come in at that time again? Would I stay in that place again? Would I, all of those things that you think about. So there's a whole load of things that went well and things that didn't go well. Should we let's do it in chronological order? Perhaps
Shall
if we
we
go
take a
through.
step back first? And
Step back.
before we talk about what's been happening over the weekend, let's jump forwards and just talk about what happened since yesterday. So what have you been doing for the past 24 hours? Recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. And I will need to plug this in just a minute, unless I do it right now.
Yeah.
So
what have I been doing? I had a very nice meal yesterday with some people who came round. Some friends who are moving, which is a bit sad, but they came round and we had a very nice meal. Plus, in fact, since I have come back from UK Games Expo, then I have managed to read an entire book. So I've read a Poirot. So it is one of. So basically, there are lots of Agatha Christie books. But, of course, there are a few Poirots which have been written not by Agatha Christie, post-Agatha Christie Poirots. And so this was the first one of those I had read, which I think was called The Monogrammed Murders. But anyway,
so it sounds like it was riveting, it kept you going, it was relatively easy to read.
Exactly. Well, it was very much the style of Agatha Christie, so it was basically somebody coming in and saying, well, let me take on this mantle, let me write, in the style of the greats. And, it was really good.
And if someone has never read a book about Poirot, which one would you recommend?
Oh, if you have never read one at all, I don't know.
While you are thinking about that, a quick hello to Robert, who says, "Morning, I need to apologise to Jess as I was going to come back and buy a roll and colour pad, and I didn't. And I don't want to speak for Jess, but there's so much going on at the show and stuff
Etsy,
happens."
you can get them on Etsy. But yeah, absolutely. There are so many different things, different things that you're going with them. Yeah. Supposing you've never read a Poirot, I would say Death on the Nile is probably a good one to start with, because it is well known. You may well have seen a film of it. It's pretty good. It's got a good twist, but it's not the same twist as many of the others.
So I said that I wouldn't start any new games for a few months. Like, I'm just going to try and finish games that I need to finish, because there's actually one that a LARP that I'll be writing, and I'm a bit scared of that, to be honest. But what if there was a game called Death in Denial, and it's about ghosts who don't believe that they are actually dead? And
that would be funny.
But then there's one amongst you who's actually alive, but then you don't want to admit that you're dead, so you're trying to work out which of you is dead and which one's you alive. I don't know.
There you go. We've got a new game right away.
A vague idea.
That'd be quite funny.
And anyway, so back to the points of recent highlights. Yesterday, I came back with Johan Bryce Hodgson, who was driving. I moved the things into the front, and then Johan said goodbye. I put all the things, went up and down the stairs many times. I want to say hundreds of kilos. I definitely, and it's many flights of stairs. I felt like I had a good workout. On the final trip up, I did start the bath running, so I could just sit in it. And I always get 2 copies of the UK Games Expo programme. One so that I can read it in the bath, and it's already kind of a bit ruined because, there is steam coming up and whatnot. And one so that I can kind of keep it a bit more pristine. So I think somewhere I've got copies of the programme going back to 2011 when I started attending. But that was definitely a highlight. After that, I sort of just vegged out a bit, did some social media. I managed to catch up with Facebook and Instagram. There's loads of Twitter stuff from over the weekend. I've just not tackled that. But
Instagram.
I watched 2 films while I was kind of footering around. And inspired by one of them, I decided I am going to run tomorrow. And I worked out, okay, how long is this route? Could I run a marathon? Because I have in the past, but I feel like I probably couldn't run a marathon tomorrow. I feel like I'm not in good enough shape that I could just get up and run a marathon. But so I worked out the path, and it was going to be either 1.8 miles if I did the shortest route, or 2.2 miles. Okay, that's a fair route. And this morning I got up, and just before our chat, I did go out and I ran my 2.2 miles. So I feel like that's my major achievement. And yeah, boom, I feel satisfied.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, doing a good run is a really, it can be really good. There were days in the past, long past, where I used to do a lot of running, but I haven't for a while, and in fact, not even gone out for a little jog recently. So perhaps I'll do that. Perhaps I'll do that tomorrow.
We've already talked about why we wanted to go to UK Games Expo. We talked about this before it started, but what was brilliant? Can we just have a really quick, it doesn't need to be an exhaustive list, but why is UK Games Expo a brilliant thing? Brilliant thing. It's a little thing which is brilliant. So while I stretch, UK Games Expo, let's go back and forth. People, obviously that's the big thing. But you can even subdivide it. And I want to talk about meeting new people. That's a brilliant thing. I've never met you before, but now you're sitting down, and maybe we don't have a conversation, but through watching you playing this game, I get a sense of your personality. I get a sense maybe of what kind of noises you would make or how you would perform. And I think you can get a sense of new people and initiating connections. What's your brilliant thing?
Absolutely. I think the brilliant thing is probably, the brilliant thing is the fact that it's just all laid out there, because sometimes, things when you're looking online, for example, can be so overwhelming. It's all right there in your face. But if it's physically, laid out in two very large halls, then you can sort of wander around. You can do it at your own speed. You can take a look at that, and then there's something really good about it being something where you can go to them rather than it just being sort of there online all the time.
Like the physical destination, and it's right there, all next to each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hello, Yoda. It is lovely to see you. And Robert says, so much of this hobby, particularly the design side, is online. I got the chance to meet so many people in person. Many I didn't even know what they looked like.
Yeah, and now you do. I met a couple of people who were there in the flesh, people I had never expected to meet. So there are a couple of people, so one in particular I speak to quite a lot on Zoom, know exactly what he looks like on Zoom, but I was like, oh, you're in 3D, real life.
I can see the back of your head.
I know. Profile, noses and all. It was, yeah, it's quite a strange thing, that.
Because, unless we make a habit of doing this, which most people don't, you don't really know what I look like except from one very specific angle. That's a weird thing to think about.
It's very strange, meeting people in real life.
I'm going to talk about touch, because I know that there is still a risk of COVID, so you can't be touching too much, but I was just blank out refusing to shake hands for the record. And I was doing the elbow dance, which is right elbow, left foot, left foot, jazz hands. And it feels like just that extended series of touches, it reaffirms the humanity. It means like you and I are both human and we're both here. And it reaffirms our solidity, if nothing else. We're not just vapor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's also something you get from just physically being close to someone else. You don't necessarily need to actually be touching them, but if you're sort of physically in the same space, and you get this sense of, hey, you're another person, moving through space in the same way that I do. It's just, it's a very strange thing. I think it really boils down to us being on one level quite sociable animals. Human beings do tend to bond together, and even those of us who are less sociable than others, we still have that that sense of that sense.
Jess, are you mildly introverted?
Only a little bit. So I am the type of person who I very much get my sense of self back, and I relax by being alone. But I do love going out and being in a crowd with other people. Although there are, and we'll get on to this later, there are a few things I would have changed about the whole way that I did Games Expo this year, and one of them involves other people, particularly my small people.
And if anyone wants to share any other brilliant things about UK Games Expo, not specific games you saw, but just general things about events like UK Games Expo, one thing that I want to say is no shipping costs, which is brilliant, because that means that at the end on the Sunday, I can go with a box full of stuff and say, hey, would you like to trade some games to some other people? Yeah. And you know what? Actually, should I talk through the new games that I got? Did you get new games? Maybe that should be a wee bit later, but most of these things I wouldn't have been able to get if it wasn't for, hey, you're here, you want to sell these games, I want to sell these games. And sure, they are both worth money, and I also swapped with Jess, but it means that we're essentially paying our printing costs rather than the trade price, which is nice. It's kind of like we've just sold a game and then used that money to buy a brand new game. Which...
Thinking about things like new games and thinking about shipping costs and things, there's also, of course, the bring and buy sale. Because there are a lot of people who go to get new games, but there are also an awful lot of people who go to get secondhand games. And I really love the fact that there's this huge secondhand market, because there are so many games out there which perhaps are sitting on people's shelves, not being as loved as they could be, where, the fact that you've got people who are turning up with huge IKEA bags full of games, to sell. And then, basically, lots of the time they're going away with different games. But it's just brilliant, that there's this enormous, bring and buy thing. So it's not just that people are chasing the new, it's that people are using this as a great opportunity to swap around the games they already have.
Now, that feels like a nice place to draw a line under, unless there's anything that you really want to say. But I wanted to ask a tangential question. When you see your games for sale, I don't know if it's reached that point yet, if enough of your games have filtered through that it's a regular occurrence. But when you see your games available second-hand, how do you feel?
Oh, so I've seen a fair number of people giving as gifts, and I've seen that online where people say, "Hey, I was gifted, this copy of Disarm the Base," or whatever, and that feels really, really good. I haven't seen very many done, secondhand, so I think that might be one to pass over to you, Bez.
So when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, why didn't they like it? Why do they feel like they want to sell it on?" That's sad. But even though I say that no game is for everyone, but if it's someone that I kind of knew, I'm like, wait a minute, that game wasn't for them. Is there something wrong with that game? And you do always have that sense of questioning yourself. But I kind of made peace with it. I've learned to deal with it. And I would definitely much rather people continue to enjoy it, even if it's not the person who bought it, rather than it just be languishing in a cupboard somewhere. I also do think that whilst from a selfish point of view, I would love everyone to be buying all my games brand new, I think that in terms of a consumerist thing, there are so many resources being used, and it would be good to have these games kind of filter through. It kind of feels like we might get to a situation where, there's games that I bought. Just because a game is being sold secondhand doesn't make it a bad game. It just means that for whatever reason, it wasn't for that person. And I think that games will filter through to the people who maybe can't quite afford the brand new games, and then people will continue to gift games to people who don't play so many. And I think that way it will continue to slowly expand. Jane Garvani says, "I saw a copy of In a Bind in the Bring and Buy. Wow, how much was it? I'd be mildly curious. And was it really battered up? I'm also curious about that." Anyway, Jane says, "I'd like to think they had upgraded to Yogi, and that's why they were selling it."
Maybe.
And obviously, as well as brilliant things, there are not so brilliant things, but some people have caught COVID slightly, as it is a risk. It is a calculated risk, and anyone who was going there had to be aware. But Robert says, "My lateral flow test was negative, but I will check again before going to London this weekend. I'm seeing lots of Twitters folding with the usual convention code, but thankfully negative COVID tests."
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing as well. So one person I know has got COVID, but only one person I know. So I'm like, okay, that's quite a good sign, because after Aircon, which was in March this year, then it was, quite a lot of people, were getting COVID, which included me. I got COVID as well. But yeah, that was definitely a thing. So perhaps it's that, slightly more people are vaccinated. Perhaps it's that, perhaps it's just that it's, less of a thing right now, because clearly COVID is still out there. So, we've all got to be careful.
100%. And thanks for letting me know, Jane. I mean, I'm always curious about these things, but I appreciate you just chiming in and letting us know. Shall we have a quick Yeah, let's just get to it. If anyone's, I was going to say, shall we do the questionably quick questions? Is the next section. It's not an interrogation. It's just a questionably quick questions section, not an interrogation.
Not an interrogation. What sort of questionably quick questions? What should we do?
Which was your busiest day?
Friday.
Same.
I think most people had Friday as the busiest day this year.
What was your quietest day?
In terms of money, definitely Sunday. I think Sunday was quietest. Quietest all over. I think. Yeah.
Same for me. In terms of sales, it was like it was 8, according to the iZettle, it was 80, 79, 50. But according to like the feeling at the stand, a couple of people who were helping me said that Saturday felt slightly busier, and I will admit that I was on my own table.
Yeah. Saturday felt quite busy, but it was more people, perhaps who wanted to know about Library Labyrinth, because we had 2 quite different things out there. So, yeah.
What would you say you were proudest of?
Oh, I really don't know. Proudest of I have no idea how to answer that question. You first, Bess. What are you proud of?
I'm really proud of the 2 p.m. events. I'm going to just list a whole bunch of things, and then we can go into detail. The 2 p.m. events, I feel like I emceed them fairly well, and also on the Sunday, especially with Jane and then Josie and then Addie, kind of giving me all the sticker packs and saying, do you want sticker packs? Yes, I do. Thank you for double checking. And I should have asked, but someone just knows that I need sticker packs. That's brilliant. Thank you, Addie. And then it was working, and then everyone had a good time, and then we had the twists, and then each day there was like a twist on the game. So yeah, going up, adding dexterity elements when you're quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different, and counting your beetroots or radishes, or for a game about quickly counting it was quickly counting cat shape. A game about counting cat shapes and colors that keeps getting trickier, just having that sudden death mode. And then for the final day, a game about wee whimsical creatures or cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after some makes noises, going up to 7 and then going up to 10, then having the sudden death where I just made a bunch of noises. And the truth is that maybe one person might have been 1 point ahead, but I kind of fudged it for the sake of the entertainment.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
But I still legitimately think that all those people were world champions, and they deserve to call themselves world champions until the next convention, until maybe August. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of sending out the stuff ahead of time. I'm proud of also making appointments with all the media people, and I had so many bookings, and I'm proud of the fact that I feel like I'm finally starting to get noticed. Like Shut Up and Sit Down came over to get a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm really excited. Fingers crossed I will get the L deck back in stock. But I'm proud that I feel like I had more games than literally any other company, even the ones that are like multi-million companies. Like according to the number of games in the preview area, I had more than anyone else. And that still boggles my mind. It's like, wow, that's
loads. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real achievement there.
Although next year, I think I might stop producing the games a few weeks ahead, just so that I can send them to everyone and be like, okay, I don't need to actually work on games for the last kind of month. I'll just make sure that everyone knows the games, and so everyone's got a bit more time to learn them. That's my aim for next year.
No, absolutely.
But what are you proud of?
By the end of it, the little pitch for Library Labyrinth was, absolutely down pat. I think that's probably what I'm most proud of. Library Labyrinth, of course, that's something where it's not physically here yet, so people are still signing up. You can late pledge on GameFound. But Saturday morning, for example, there were so many people coming by that no one could really have a proper demo, so it was sort of, let's do the quick demonstration of a turn, because we have the the kind of speed pitch. This is what the game is. This is, the way that a turn works. We had that. And then, sometimes people, might want to sit down and to just play. But Saturday morning, there were so many people coming by that by the time we'd sort of, got halfway through each, demo turn, there were people peering over, wanting it to redo once we got to the end, so nobody actually got a chance to play. So I am actually really pleased about that, and really proud that we managed to get that pitch so smooth and so perfect by the end. So, really pleased with that. But also I think just pleased with the fact that similar to you, Bez, we were spreading ourselves out against across multiple things. So I think that was actually quite a tricky thing. When you've got one thing you're doing, it's fine. But if you've got several things, then it's like, okay, right, how are we making this work and that work and that work?
Kind of like punching above your weight.
Yay!
With the boxing metaphor. Okay, so this was meant to be the really quick question section, and normally we have some sillier questions. If anyone's got something, then get them in the next 30 seconds. So one thing I would like to ask you is, what is the best colour of hair bubble?
I think
should you match
brown.
your clothes? I mean, you think
no?
I
think you should match your hair. See, I quite like matching my hair with it, But then that's because I quite like the. So the style I would really want, and clearly this isn't going to work, but I want that kind of like, it just kind of naturally goes like that, the sort of,
even if it's a ponytail, oh yeah, absolutely. My hair
absolutely. I've just sort of, I just woke up like this. It's just naturally all brilliant,
Oh yeah, I just naturally woke up and Jess had already tweaked my hair into these French. But what were you doing while I was asleep with that French plaits to make sure that it was like that when I was awake?
I know, exactly. Did you enjoy your plaits, Bez?
I did.
Excellent.
It was a wee bit tricky to get out, but yeah, my needs to kind of be a bit more careful and teasing them out once you're already. Maybe I should have teased them out when we got to the restaurant when I had marginally more energy, because I did end up ripping a tiny bit of hair out, unfortunately.
Oh no, never mind. It'll grow back. Yeah, hair does that.
But yeah, so as always, if people want, feel free to comment, ask questions from follow. I do have some stuff to say myself, and I thought that I might actually go onto Instagram and show some of the wee things that I'd
the excitement of the weekend.
So I haven't shared loads of things myself, and this is just a general events thing. So I started off having these highlights for events, and this is loading bar back when it used to exist, and all the events, and it used to be just smaller events. But then after UK Games Expo, that's still not UK. That's UK Games Expo 2021, I think.
That's last year, then.
Let's see. No, how do I get it to move? I think if I click this button,
it'll go.
Then
to the
it
next
goes to the. Oh, that's still Essenspiel. Can I?
Wow, that's a while back then.
So ultimately, and that's. Do you know Sally Jones?
I vaguely do.
Who made the little hat? I feel like now I've gotten big enough that I didn't need to put that many pictures myself. Other people were like, oh, here's Bez. And I was like, wow, there's so many people talking about me. And you talk about how you recover. And by the way, that is UK Games Expo 2021 there. And how you recover is, I just need to keep the buzz going. I want to make sure that I'm still enjoying life and still connecting with people. Because where I'm there, I feel high and just it's like, wow, I'm doing so much and there's so many people and I'm the center of attention and that's amazing. And then I come home and it's like, oh, there's no one here and it's a bit sad. But while I'm watching a film, there will be a film in the corner, and when there's a big moment, I might make it full screen for a bit. Otherwise, it will be off in the wee corner, and it will be a case of, well, let's see what people are saying. And I got some lovely comments saying, hey, thank you for playing this game with us. And someone trying to burst their balloon at the end of a video where they were literally stamping on it and they couldn't quite get it.
Brilliant.
And Game for Life. Oh, here we are up to now play this. So yeah, I do need to make a brand new highlight for future things. That's the last event I was at before UK Games Expo, the charity event. And now we're about to get to UK Games Expo, where it's almost like half as much as everything else beforehand on my Twitter.
Here we go.
Where people enjoyed things. People came back and, you know, like for shits and giggles was like, wow, check out this balloon machine where we were literally putting things into balloons, and Kat was an amazing balloon boss. I would not have been able to do it quite as well. Like it might have, maybe after like a few hours, I would have gotten the hang of it. But just having some amazing people, I was just there kind of filling up the gaps as needed, but generally just trying to make appointments with people and orchestrating the 2 p.m. events. That's something that I genuinely would always want to do. There was one time when myself and Fi were kind of co-commentators, and it's when you've got a bit of back and forth when you want to distract people, and also the very final of a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your beetroots, radishes, turnips, does last quite a bit of time. So you start talking, and then you're saying, oh, Lena doesn't look like they're being distracted by all my commentary, and then they're just trying to block it out, but still they have to kind of shake their head or something. Why is that paused?
I think you might need to press it again, or just press the next, maybe there. There we go. And more things about packaging games, because those worked really well. The fact that you had those huge balloons, they really did work well, and I saw quite a few people wandering around with them, and it's like, that's really cool.
And congratulations to everyone, and it was really fun seeing that. And I think that that's a thing that I could imagine doing again. And I think that even though there were some games that I was more proud of than others, I don't think that there was a game at the stand that was like, ooh, I'm unhappy with it. Do you know what I mean? And
no, absolutely.
A quick hello to Timmy.
Hello.
Need to maybe keep it. Maybe the highlights mess up when they're too long. Maybe that's what's going on.
There's something strange going on there. I never quite understand how.
And here, like Meatballs Abroad, like they did a quick Instagram live with loads of people, and everyone else was just, hi, my name's blah, 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 and this is my game. And to play it, you do this, and then you do that. Whereas I come up with this rhyme. I am Bez, and here's my stuff. Would you like to have a laugh? Most of my stuff is just not tough, but with Yogi, you will huff and puff. Yogi Guru, that's not new, but if you've not tried it yet, then do. Now, game bulk, and then it carries on for a wee bit. And I was proud of it, and I felt like there was this thing that I had written, and I feel like I want to do more of that. More noises, more weird 2 p.m. events, and even push that a little bit further. We've got a really exciting idea for the next event that, let me pause that and shrink that thing down.
Yay! Hello again.
And Timmy just got home. Wow, it's ridiculously late. Were you out clubbing or something? Because Timmy lives in Nova Scotia, where it's, I believe, 5 a.m. But it was just, I'm not going to say my idea, but it's an idea with two halves. Oh my gosh, I really want to say it, but I probably shouldn't. You should tell me to not share the idea, Jess.
Don't share the idea. Share it later.
I would love to share the idea, but Jess is telling me not to. So if you want to complain, then complain to Jess.
Complaints here.
Thank you.
I'm not even saying what's going on, but yeah, complaints.
No, but yes, definitely. Hopefully at Tabletop Scotland, I will be able to make it work. All I really need are some nice colouring in things and my own energy, which hopefully, will be there.
You can
And
bring
a Google form and, yes, a box with a hole in it where you post little things on the stand.
Yeah.
I believe in myself.
Excellent. So Bez, you obviously came back with some stock. Hardly anybody sold out. There might have been one or two people
I
who
did sell out of 2 things.
Oh, you sold out. So that was going to be my question. Was there anything you did sell out of? Was there anything where you went in going, look, I've only got a few of these, let's see if I sell out?
My business model, and firstly, hello, Jay Folsgaard. Yes, we had a lovely expo, and thank you for joining us. I print 100 of a thing, and I will keep about 10 of them back for myself, and for UK Games Expo, 10 of them might have been going to helpers. And so, but a game about cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after some makes noises, I believe that I kept about 5 back for myself, and then the rest were sold out. So that's 95 approximately, and that's a really good number. A game about drawing creatures, complementing the drawings and complementing the complements, first edition, that did sell out, but there were only a few copies left. So I'm talking like 15 when I went there. And the second edition with the nicer artwork, it was really interesting because it was £2 more, but quite a few people were like, oh, you know what, that is much nicer. Yeah, happily I'll pay the £2 more. And then there were a few people who said, yeah, actually, I am on a tight budget. I would rather pay £5 than £7. And that's totally fair because I'm trying to kind of shift those and get rid of them. I did probably give away, I had interactions with maybe 12, 15 reviewers, let's say, and reviewers / shop owners and cafe owners. And for those people, I might have given, we demo copy of, but like I did on the iZettle alone, ignoring the cash sales, we sold, which might not have been registered, we sold 80 copies of a game about cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after some makes noises, which again, it feels, look, my sales were good. I was hoping we would sell out of more stuff, is the truth. I thought we would sell out of a game about counting cats' shapes and colors that keeps getting trickier. We didn't. That was slightly disappointing. I thought, wow, this is a good enough game. But having said that, on the times when I demoed it, I was occasionally surprised by how much people struggle with the counting. With that, oh, I need to count 2 things and add them together? Wow. And for me, that's just like...
Some people are... maybe it's something they don't practice enough. Maybe it's something where actually that's just not what they find fun.
And
but
it's not that they can't do it. It's just that they can't do it whilst
quickly
trying to do it at speed faster than anyone else. And if they try to do it faster than anyone else, then they're consistently messing up. And that feels frustrating for them. I do think that it would be a good way to practice arithmetic, because actually when you start to learn the game, you realize, okay, actually, it's faster for me to count the things that I'm not counting and then deduct it. So you've actually got to do that. You can't just count up to, if you've got 5 cards, there's going to be 15 cats. So rather than counting up to 10 or 12 or 9 or however much it is, count up to 3 or 6 and then deduct that from 15. And that should be that smidgen faster once you're good at it. But again, I have played it loads. And so I do try to, don't tell everyone, but when I'm playing, if they are a bit slow, I count their thing first. And then once I'm like, yeah, I've counted theirs, then I count mine and then I slap. So I have like a secret thing to slow myself down. Or I might spend like a couple of seconds looking around at my stand, kind of zoning out and recovering mentally, and then I count. which is also fine. And but again, I think that maybe it needs to be pushed marginally simpler for real mass market appeal. I'm not sure. Like maybe
it might. Yeah. The thing is, I think this is the thing that you don't necessarily want mass market appeal with everything. You know,
you don't,
because
but it was meant to be a mass market game. That was, and
so
like,
maybe
like some of the cards get you to count one thing, some of the cards get you to count two things, and I think there should be cards that get you to count two things. But all I'm saying is that rather than it being 40% of the deck gets you to count two things, maybe 25% of the deck gets you to count two things. Just like a little bit easier, just so that people aren't quite as consistently overwhelmed. I think something like that. Or I might even try a redesign of it where there's maybe, I don't know if this would work in terms of color blindness, but maybe 3 colors and 4 objects, because I think that that could possibly work. And then you could normally be just doing the one thing, but then because the problem with doing just one thing when there's only 2 colors is it's quite easy to memorize that. So it becomes a case of, okay, I can remember in my head, I've got this many black, red, this many blue, and as soon as the color comes up, I can just count the new things and slap. But if there were 3 colors, even 3, it's more likely that you need to actually count rather than, and that would be 7 different possibilities that you need to count, and that's too much to keep in your head.
No, completely.
And it feels like this is incredibly late development. Like, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I am re-evaluating what the expo means to me, because honestly, I'm not sure I think of myself as a self-publisher anymore. In the past, since 2019, some things have massively changed. Since Brexit, since COVID, my inability to I can't actually find a box that I like, that I personally printed, but the Wibble Plus Plus Deluxe, the Kitty Cataclysm box, I'm really proud of them. I'm happy with them. But I am not going to be able to print them myself without outside help. It's possible that I could partner up with another publisher, but it's just too much for me, frankly. As yes, I've got Chris to help me like a couple of days a week, but that's very much, I kind of ask them to do specific things, and they don't know anything about board games that I've not taught them, frankly. And what they, and so if I sell a single game, look, Yogi accounts for basically all my income right now. And my self-publishing right now, when I went to UK Games Expo, did I make a gross profit? Yes. Did I make a net profit? Probably not. Was it worth going? Yes. Emotionally, it recharged me. It's allowed me to get to many people. And I see the benefit as helping me get more stuff signed up by other publishers. I see the main benefit as, me realizing that how complicated a game about counting cat shapes and colors that keeps getting trickier really is. About me realizing that actually a game about quickly matching words to pictures, but never words to words or pictures to pictures, is less confusing than I imagined, based on, sure, these are gamery people, but they are still closer to the population, and I'm still able to get a lot more evaluation based on people actually buying them for £5 than whatever. And Robert says, other publishers there said they don't make net profit, but it's still worth doing. But
absolutely. But I don't, very few people make a net profit from that.
But I don't even feel like it's about my advertising. I said to all the reviewers that I met up with, I'm not that fussed about you reviewing particular games of mine. I want people to know generally the busy bargain bags are something worth getting. That's what I want. I want people to know about me, about what I'm doing, because I've got lots of stuff, but I would like it to be all explained in context. Do you know what I mean? Hey, Bez is making a lot of stuff, and when Bez releases new games for £5, they might not be your favourite game ever, but this is probably going to be some of the best value stuff you ever buy. And hopefully that's not too egocentric to say.
So you're in a kind of interesting position because there are very few self-publishers who are built so much around a brand. You know, you have a very individual Bez-based brand. You know,
I mean,
you've
it's stuff by
basically made
Bez. My
yourself
name's in the title of the company, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah. I mean, but that is, but that is unusual, because that's not what most other people do, which actually is really good because it sets you aside. It makes you the central figure and the central networker. So it does mean that your relationship with other people is going to be different to most other, small publishers. So Descent Games is me, sort of started out as just me. Now it's really me and Mill, with a couple of other people who are there and who, some people help at conventions, some people help just for Library Labyrinth, some people help for other things, but it feels much more like a small company, despite the fact, we haven't really made any, actual money yet, but it feels like a small company in the way that Stuff by Bez feels like a specific Bez brand. So I think that if I was in your shoes, then I'd be looking at, possibly getting more staff to help you get that Bez brand along. But it would be very much like this is a Stuff by Bez company, which is still absolutely centered around you as the figurehead, whereas the other staff would be doing a lot of the admin, doing a lot of the logistics of the publishing, working out how to get it done, where to get it done, all of that stuff.
And right now I don't have the cash or the cash flow to have more stuff. Like now I think that my first thing would be to try and break even with me paying Chris to come in 2 days a week with my everything. But look, in the same way that Yogi has sold maybe 100 times as much, Yogi and Yogi Guru, I should say, has sold less than 100 as much as all the inner binds combined. And sure, it's been going longer, but each year they sell, I don't think I meant to say the number, but it's more than 10 times as much as I was selling in a typical year. Now, that has the advance. I get more than 1/10 as much money, as much profit per copy. I don't get as much, clearly, but I get more than 1/10. And so I am netting more money. But the more important thing is that it's an amazing position to be in, where you are an author of a book or a board game or a movie or a music album, and then you get residual royalties. That's an incredibly privileged position to be in. And if I could get one of the new games from this year to be sold to an even bigger company than Gigamic, because sure, they're big enough to publish the game in like more than 20 languages, but they're not the biggest, toy and game company out there by any means. I mean, they've just been subsumed into the Hachette conglomerate, which itself is, like, within board games is marginally smaller than Asmodee, which even within board games is much smaller than Hasbro. And so if you do get something sold to a proper mass market company, it's not selling tens of thousands of copies, it's selling hundreds of thousands of copies in one country, and then all the other countries as well on top of that, possibly even millions of copies per year. That is what the kind of numbers that proper mass market is. And it is a long shot, But I think that by designing a large number of things and then actually putting them out there and having prototypes, yes, I print 100 copies of them. Yes, they're on Board Game Geek, but they are still kind of prototypes in the way that any published game, if I'm willing to change it, like in a bind to Yogi, there was, I want to say 3% was changed in terms of the mechanics, in terms of the words on the cards. I asked them to change one card, and one of the cards was, I said left where it should have said right, and so they tweaked that on my request, and it was all good. Yogi is a better game. Even Yogi, though, if it was up to me, I would change that, because 3 years after release, I was like, hey, wait a minute, that one card would be better if it was removed. And if we put that card into Yogi Guru, now that I'm aware that Yogi Guru is a thing, the hands on the knee card would actually make more sense in that game, so that it would be 100% above the waist rather than being 98% above the waist. But at a certain point, a big enough company says, no, I'm sorry, we don't like to make small changes because then it confuses the market. And that's fair. That is fair. I can understand that. It's like maybe in 10 years' time, if it's still going, there'll be like an update or something. I don't know. But the point is, while these are, I like to think, good games, I mean, people did buy them, and it wasn't just because they're only £5. I mean, sure, £5 made it like a no-brainer. And we had, I want to say, not quite 100% record, but close to that of once you did a demo and you said, this is the price, definitely way more often than not, people would be like, oh, wow, that's the price. Yeah, absolutely. And we would buy a thing, and they would buy a thing, sorry.
Yeah.
We would sell it because that would be weird.
Absolutely.
And the point is that this is kind of like extended testing, where the first editions, where I'm like, yeah, I think it's good. It's hopefully a good game, but there is graphical elements and stuff that it could almost certainly be improved a little bit. But I think it's a good game. And hopefully you do it as well, and it's going to be £5, and that's not too much to take a chance on me. And then if we get to a second edition, it'll be £7. And I'm not saying that those will never be changed, because if I still own the game at that point, I'm sure in a year's time I'll be like, oh, wait a minute, you know what? I'm going to spend another week rewriting all these things and tweaking some of the wording, or maybe you know what I mean. But
yeah, absolutely.
And that feels like my approach to it isn't so much as setting up a company that makes money through self-publishing, but my approach to Stuff by Bez is, yes, I want to own the LDEC. That's the one thing that I will never fully license away, because so much of it, unless they're willing to jump through very specific hoops and keep me in control of some of it. But everything else that I've ever made, I would be very happy for someone to pay me money, and I don't have to worry about it, but I would probably buy some copies, like 20 copies every time that I go to a convention, like I do for Yogi. That's just such a nicer way to be. And that is the thing that allows me to actually be profitable, because I'm a far better designer than I am a business person.
Yeah. Though you are also a very good convention exhibitor, because of the energy, that you're bringing there. And I think that's that's something which has to be said, that when you go to a convention, there is something about, just having the energy there, which is why conventions are not just, they're not just shops. You're there and you're, doing all the stuff and you're hanging around with people. But it can be difficult, to attract people in, and the fact that you've got all of those long tables with the red tablecloths, that really helps. That lots of people are like, okay, we know that's Bez's corner, that's where Bez is, down there. Let's go find, the Stuff by Bez games, which is why everybody has those
also
nice
really
gimmicks.
helps is having little giveaways. Like, I mean, on Saturday, I managed to finish running around every single exhibitor stand. It is a lot easier if you do it before 9 a.m. so that there's no fewer people in the way. And that was tiring. I mean, it did, but I did drop one, possibly two, if I knew them and I knew they would appreciate them. And if there was a team already there and they seemed to, I would just give one to each member of the team. But I dropped about one of my promo cards, and these are UK Games Expo specific promo cards where I've illustrated Tony and Richard. That's something that you can only get at UK Games Expo. I think I did come away with like 100 that I'm keeping for myself for personal reasons, and maybe, you know, I'll I don't know, like some years in the future I'll do something with them. But then when people are walking past, say, hey, would you like a promo card? I got my people at my stand to give away almost 1,500 of them. And that was, yes, a marketing expense, but it got people to slow down. Saying, would you like a catalogue? Here's a catalogue. And then instead of having what they thought might be a catalogue, instead, if I can get this wee picture up, they get a picture of a cat on a log. That's, here we go. A catalogue.
Yay!
And you can see some of the other stickers, and sometimes it would say, that's the earlier one. Be true to yourself.
I like those.
Then there's a few cute comical creatures that I did just to celebrate them. These I didn't print so much of, but then I did print quite a few of these and the Be True to Yourself to kind of celebrate the games that I wanted to push slightly more. But having that giveaway and having it's a gimmick, but it gets people sitting down. It also tells you about the tone. And I am wondering what I will do next year when Seize the Power is being demoed. I'm almost thinking of having literally making a wall using banners and then having people behind the banners playing the game. So there's something going on, but it's literally behind there. And if someone says, oh, what's going on there? Then we'll say, yes, that's that. And there is a trigger warning attached. Really, no, you can't. I don't feel comfortable anyone playing it unless they're either over 18 or they've got, it's a parental guidance thing. Look, it's not so, frankly, like there's many gory games but there's no overt things, but it is a game about corruption and negotiation of power, and it's a very political game about politics.
Yeah, and people need to know what they're getting into. Yeah.
How do you set
definitely having something which you can give away can be really useful. We found that having the bookmarks worked quite well. But how do you set the tone? I mean, definitely bookmarks, so one of the things I think we might do differently next time was that it did very much feel like we had two separate stands, because we had sort of two separate things we were doing. So on one half, we had Library Labyrinth, which is great. That has its very, that has a lot of artwork. So we had banners with the artwork, and that being laid out. People can see. This is the game as it's laid out. People get a very good sense of what it is just from looking down at the board, and it's like, well, it's a game in the library. We make sure that the cards are face up, so they can see, these are the types of people in the library. Really, one or two sentences, that's enough to set the tone there. And the bookmarks draws people in as well. So we have quite a lot of free bookmarks.
What if you had a game that was a roll and color bookmark? Like, it doesn't have to be the best
thinking
game.
about it. We did think about,
but then
having
that would bring your two things together as well.
Yeah, we thought about having games on bookmarks. Couldn't quite get them to fit, so we abandoned that idea. But that's not to say that we won't pick it up again in the future. The other half, we had roll and color, and we had the greetings cards. One thing I think we need to do next time we need to make it even clearer that the greetings cards contain games. Because it said it, but it, something which just says it is not nearly as good as something that, say, shows it. So I think we need to make a bigger sign for the top, rather than just saying, greeting card games, etc., and the prices. We perhaps need to have one of the greetings cards spread out on top, with little arrows saying, the picture is on the front, the rules are on the back, something that's really clear, because of course people walking past don't immediately get it, because as soon as people were like, oh, that's actually a game, that's not just a pretty picture, then they really enjoyed that. But yeah, those.
Yeah, I think that having even something like that on a banner that explains one line, I think that would be really good. Because I've got the advantage that my titles are the pitch, but
absolutely,
if you say greeting cards, games, a pretty picture, and a game to play.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about roll and colour, which is the third thing we were doing, so the greetings cards and roll and colour, were together, of course. The thing about the roll and colour notepads was that I had not quite realised how many people would just want the little pads. So we had some which were little bags, they came with crayons, they came with dice, so some of them you got the pack of 3 different pads, because there's the 3 different ones we had, the tulips, the frogs and the lilies, the balloons. Then we had a pack which was all 3 of them, plus crayons, plus dice, which was a little colourful bag. Now, quite a lot of people really, they just wanted the pads. They were saying, well, I've got dice, I've got crayons at home, which was surprising to me. And I think it was possibly that people were thinking, that they didn't want superfluous stuff, which is absolutely fine.
It's good for the environment that people are starting to think about this stuff.
Absolutely. Funnily enough, when we sold one pad, we almost always sold the frogs and lilies pad, which is this one. This was the most popular single pad. When we were selling
the one that's kind of in the middle in terms of difficulty.
That's the middle one. When we were selling 2 pads, it was almost always these 2 together. Basically,
that makes sense. You want the easiest and the hardest.
Yeah, but people, I think, divide into 2 groups: those who prefer these 2 versus those who prefer that one.
Isn't that just a case of people wanting to spend different amounts of money? Like, if you want to spend less money, then you get
art.
Really?
Yeah. So I think it was something about the art, because the tulips and the balloons look more similar, and actually, that does kind of make sense if you look at them. But yeah, it was definitely people wanting to do different amounts of things. People wanted different things. So we sold quite a lot of the individual little pads and quite a few of the pairs, but only about half the packs, which is something to learn for next time. But I suspect that at a future convention, so let's say we go to Dragon Meet and we have a stand where we can sell things at Dragon Meet, we might have a completely different story, because of course Dragon Meet is at the beginning of December. So there would be people there who want to buy Christmas presents or something. So we might have a completely different, there might be a completely different result there from something which is in the middle of the summer.
And yeah, some of your cards were quite Christmassy.
Exactly.
And it's definitely an interesting thing to ponder. So we've talked about, it's past the hour, and it's past the point where we normally wrap up. We've talked vaguely about how it was for us, how the various days were. It was brilliant. Friday was busier, and then it kind of tailed off, which is very unusual. We talked about what we're proud of, and we have done a little bit of comparing and contrasting with, my first convention was 2016 as a trader, and yes, it was with just the one game in a bind, but now I've developed this entire library. I had a much bigger stand, and I had 10, me plus 9 odd, Josie was a full-time help. So I had 10 full-time helpers with me, and also a couple of other people who were just here for 2 hours here and there, which was really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, without Kathleen Mercury on the Sunday, filling in the breaks, and congratulations to Alex Cannon, who wasn't really there to help. I just said, you can come whenever you want and demo your game Bidabel. And
I
it's just
came and
unfortunate.
played with him, and it was lovely. I had a very good game with
Even
him.
though sadly all the L decks are out of stock right now, but hopefully back soon. Fingers crossed. And yeah, there was Scott who came in each day, and Dermot who kind of helped, even though they weren't meant to. And already on Thursday, when there was so much to sort out, we didn't even talk about that. The chairs and the tables were such a pain, and I had electricity.
Oh my
and we
goodness.
got our electricity after the show preview had already started. So basically, there was no time for us to do any setup other than put up the banners, minus the banners that we need for the show preview, and put the boxes out of the way. That is literally all we could do. Set up some tables, but we couldn't even arrange them where we wanted, because underneath there had to be electricity, if you know what I mean. And so that was really not good.
Yeah, there were a lot of practical things there. There is also one thing I will say, which is that one of the things that coloured it for me in a way which was not so great was that I had my children visiting me on the Saturday afternoon. And I think actually that, that I think it was too busy, and I felt quite torn there. Yeah, that there was too much stuff going on. I should have just sort of gone, actually, this is a work weekend. Plus, didn't remember until after they had left, So I have a nearly 4-year-old who is obsessed with trains. What do you think I completely forgot until after they had left?
That there are games that involve trains?
Nothing to do with the games. There's a monorail that goes to the airport.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, he was getting bored at one point, and he went and sat on the sheep at the Catan stand. He did love the sheep at the Catan stand. That big red sheep.
Should have sent them over to our place.
Exactly, we should have sent them over there.
Spend some time drawing the creatures and before.
But there was there's a monorail there. We could have gone back and forth on the little train a couple of times. He would have loved it. Did I remember it? No.
The earlier things that he told me not to say, I'm not going to say the whole thing, but there will be even more colouring in.
Yay, more colouring in.
It involves more colouring in. I need to work out also what relatively cheap things apply to cards well. I wish I'd gotten some of your crayons so I could have tested them out.
The crayons are very good, actually.
But are they good for pre-printed cards, if you know what I mean?
Now we're using, we are deliberately using paper which is uncoated. Now, if you've got a card, I mean, clearly if you've got a nice linen finish and it's sort of plasticky, it's not going to work. But if it's I'm not quite sure. Yeah, you'd probably have to test the various different finishes you get from different card manufacturers and test it with different crayons.
Honestly, it feels like this is the cards that we get, and what makes good marks on these. But sorry, back to the thing. Yes, having your family visit, and I had my parents ask, would you have any time for us? And I just said, no, I would not.
Sensible, Bez.
That sounds harsh. But frankly, there were people who visited the stand and they were friends, and I might not have seen them in ages. And all we had time for was to elbow dance. And it's lovely to see you here, but I'm going to be manning the stand. Fabio Loppiano, coming from Italy, lovely friend. And it was lovely that we got to share as much as 30 seconds, probably not even a minute. But it is just a really, really busy show. And as you say, you're being pulled in a million different directions. So if there's someone that you could see any other time, no, now is not the time. Sorry.
Don't see them at Games Expo. Leave it for work.
Absolutely not. Do you have any other regrets or things you would do differently next time?
I mean,
regrets might be a strong word.
Yeah, regrets is too strong a word. I think, there are lots of things where we've thought, okay, well, maybe we should, set it up a bit more like this. And, should we put the cards in the middle or whatever? Should we even have this number of things, or should we leave the cards more for, those that are perhaps more crafty, craft fairs and things? But I don't think we have any actual, serious things where we go, no, we would have done it completely differently. Except that I didn't manage to get the late pledges set up in time. So, so if there's a big thing I would have done differently, then it would have been about 3 weeks ago. I would have worked out exactly what information Game Found need for late pledges, and I would have set that up because they need quite a lot of things to do with shipping information, which we just didn't have the time to put in because I'd underestimated the amount of information that they needed. So
hindsight is,
a brilliant
a couple
thing.
of years ago. Yeah, just go with a brilliant thing.
Hindsight is brilliant.
Robert says, I found out quite a few people I wanted to chat to longer, but they are obviously busy. And if they are selling, you don't want to disturb them. Yeah, I appreciate that. And honestly, it was nice to see you, and I remember seeing you, and that's a lot more than I can say for a lot of the people that I saw.
We had a
there
great
are a few,
game.
like Jess, there are a few small things that I would do. Obviously, always you get ideas for, what if we... Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone was trying to ring me. I'll ring them back in a bit. Like the idea for a special, yeah, I feel like I should announce. Okay, no, I will announce it later. But there will be more colouring in, and anyone who's up for colouring in, please definitely come to my stand early on at Tabletop Scotland. It's limited to 54 people over the weekend, probably. But we'll work it out, as we go forward. It might change. Like if it's going incredibly well, I might double it. But there's a reason why it's limited to 52 people, specifically over the weekends, not all at once. And then you get inspired and you think, oh, that's a thing that I would like to repeat. Oh, that tiny thing. And I could make a list. I'll do that for another day because we're already running over. I think that I would send out a reminder email to everyone to say, this is when you're coming, and please remember to see me for the media people, because I want to say, out of the maybe 12 people that was meant to meet, pretty much all of them turned up, but then one of them got the time wrong because they flew in from internationally, and because of the Calendly system, they saw the time locally before they came, and then they thought that it was at 2 p.m. UK time, but it was at 2 p.m. their time, and it was at 1 p.m. UK time. So it was like, yeah, you understand you were meant to see me. Oh my gosh, was it? Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you still have? And I was, yeah, I've still got half an hour for you, but then someone else will come at 2 p.m. So he still did their thing, and so, but that was fine. And if I'd sent an email out the previous night, that would have been sorted. Also, there were 2 absolute no-shows, which is really annoying.
That is frustrating.
They haven't sent me a message or anything, and if I sent out an email saying, if you can't make it, please let me know. This is my number. Then at least they would let me know, presumably, I hope. Or if maybe, a medical emergency happened. And if something like that happens, then I don't expect someone to tell everyone. But then if you get reminded, it's like, oh, yes, actually, I am, not able to make it. Thank you for reminding me. That is the biggest thing. I could have probably used, I know I had a lot of people, but one more person, just one more. And I think that, other than that, I feel like the show went well. Maybe I would take marginally less stock, but like it's kind of tweaking based on everything, and I like taking 150% of what I think I will sell. But if
Yep.
I take double, then I feel like I've really misjudged that, and that's
Mm.
just too much. It's like too much weight to take back up the stairs. It's too much kind of space in the car. It's just a bit much.
Definitely a good idea to take, to take more than you think you're going to sell, but it is a really tricky judgment. The other thing is trying to work out, like you say, the number of people who are going to come and see you. We had a couple, so trying to sort of go, okay, right, these people are these, with a bigger stand and with more interest, the sort that you got, then it can be quite tricky trying to work out who comes at what time. The other thing that we didn't do that I'd like to do for future expos would be to just set up more of those meetings with publishers, so talking to other designers who were more selling their designs to other publishers. Of course, a lot of people set up those meetings and they just emailed a couple of months beforehand to say, hey, should we do this or whatever, which was really useful. So I think maybe next year, it might be a bit more of that as well, sort of do a little bit of everything.
I mean, I work more in the mass market space.
Yeah.
And so my my top 2, 3, 4, 5 companies that I would like to pitch to were not at UK Games Expo.
Yeah.
Like Jigamic isn't represented at, well, they kind of are via Hachette UK, but even there, they've only got Hachette UK, demonstrating the things. They don't actually have anyone who's in charge of taking in games. And yeah, so for me, when I emigrate, I am going to have to work out, okay, do I make like a 3-month holiday to go to Cannes, maybe even Nuremberg? Like that feels like a really long time to be away. But I've got a bit of time to work it out. But there was an event called Distoy, Distoy, which is a lot about toys, but also, Mattel and Hasbro and Spin Master are there. So anyone who's dabbles in that, and that feels like a nice, that's my number 1 priorities. And my number 2 priorities are probably going to be at Cannes, and hopefully I can set up meetings at Cannes.
Yeah.
And that's a thing for me to think about, a thing that I will start doing next year, being like, okay, let's filter them through, let's make a bunch of games, and now I've got these games, now I can just give these games to publishers and see if they would like to remake them. But UK Games Expo, question of the day, here's a little question before we go on our way. Really short question. Will you go to UK Games Expo 2026?
Yeah, I reckon so. Let's see. It's 2 at the moment, so 4 years' time. Yeah, I mean, okay. I will definitely be there. I suspect that I will be there as a publisher. But I suppose it's possible that I might be there just as a participant, a customer.
If you feel like your self-publishing hasn't quite worked out.
Well, if it's that I decide that I've, want to go do something else instead, so it's possible that. But I
it takes a lot of time and energy. Yeah.
Yeah, but I suspect I'll be there as a publisher. I mean,
yeah.
I
think I'll still be around in 4 years. I think I will still be at UK Games Expo. So yeah, I think you should expect to see me for many years to come. Yep. Hopefully, if I'm alive, decades to come.
Where will you be living though at that point, Bez, do you think?
2026, I imagine possibly Thailand still.
Yeah.
And we'll see. But
so you'll
I'm
fly
going to
in especially for Games Expo. Yay.
As I say, it might be like an extended holiday, but it's quite easy. Like I can sort out stuff before I head off. You can sort of work remotely. It's all good.
Exactly.
Now, what are you up to today? Over to you. What are you up to? You can share what's in there if you want to. Is there anything that you want to share? I promise I'll take care. Something you're looking forward to, something you need to do, hopes, ambitions, maybe a suggestion,
Oh,
super
it's
series or fun
mainly
improvements.
admin. It's mainly admin, I'm afraid. I've got quite a lot of different admin. I've got a proposal to write, not for this, but for something else. For something non-game related. But the game-related things, oh my goodness, I've got a lot of stuff to do for Library Labyrinth. All of the, the back end type stuff, not actual game stuff, but the publishing type stuff. Maybe I shouldn't be a publisher. I'll just be a designer. I'll, be like, no, someone else can do all of the back end stuff.
Yeah, that would be nice. Although, again, it's like, unless you can pay them, no one's going to do that. And if you're pitching, that's the thing. Your game has to be better than 100 other games, at least, for them to accept it. And not just better because it's making the political statement that you want to make. And in a way, that is why I'm really happy that ITB is with Seize the Power. Anyway, stuff that I've got to do, I am going to, after this, run over to the bank and put in some cash notes that I've got and give them some money to go into.
Do that.
I've apparently gone below zero, which is not great, but hopefully the iZettle money will be coming in soon, and hopefully the cash money will be enough to tip it above zero, which is also not great because the next time I get paid a significant amount is after August, like when my next Shigamic royalty comes in. But anyway,
we'll see.
What else? Yes, later this afternoon, I've got a delivery coming in, I believe, from Alley Cat Games. Some stuff that, because I did help out quite a bit, so I'm going to get a whole bunch of stuff. Probably do an unboxing. You know what? The stuff from UK Games Expo, this is what I actually got. You can see some stuff from Jess at the bottoms. Some stuff that I traded for. There's a game that basically no one else has, Hungry Pyramids, Reskin, and a lot of stuff that I swapped for. And I might do an unboxing tomorrow. What else? Yes, I am going to just set up and start working on a LARP. I need to make a LARP for 10 days' time. It's going to be played, and people have paid to play it, even though it's not made yet. So that is kind of scary and concerning. And I do have the concept. I've started writing it, but I've definitely not finished writing it. I need to set up some playtests. And then, but I'm not sure I can really playtest it at the Royal Festival Hall because it goes on a bit too long. But I might ask, I'll kind of playtest it this week and then not bring my games for, the next couple of weeks if people are okay with that, see how it goes. I don't have anything else to say, just sorting out stuff, packing stuff, improving my shop, working out categorical, working on the LARP, and then, working on life admin, sort of. And to me, I feel you, and I really don't envy you. Much love to you over there in one of the coldest countries. So, to recap and wrap up before we finish up, UK Games Expo is a brilliant thing, and we have been up to much. We've enjoyed it. Jess Metheringham encourages you to watch Death on the Nile. To read Death on the Nile, not just watch the film. It's actually a well-written book. Apparently, it's how many pages is it? Is it a kind of one that you would fly through, or is it one that you would do in many sittings?
So it's not very densely written. I think it would take the average person. See, I read really quickly. It would, just sitting down and just doing nothing but reading for a few evenings, it would probably take you a week of just reading in the evening.
Apparently it's 288 pages. So if we assume that it's a minute per page, that's a bit less than 5 hours. So if we got a day of relaxation, then you could read Death on Denial.
You could.
Maybe it's available at your local library. Maybe it's available at my local library. Maybe I
It's
will read it.
almost certainly available at local libraries. It's one of the the better known Agatha Christie's. But to be honest, any of the Agatha Christie's, there are very few which are absolute pants, and in fact, I can't think of any that are absolutely rubbish. Just
We
some of them are
agreed
better than
that
others.
Friday was busiest. We agreed that, yeah, I do kind of agree with you that Baubles, The Colour of Hair is good, but I do, just because I am so
like bright
strongly
ones?
branded with red, I think that it's nice having that little accessory, like the
I
extra
can
red.
see. I hear you. I hear you.
We decided that lots of stuff went well. We are proud of managing to do things. Definitely don't have people visiting you during the expo. I mean, yes, visit for like
No.
30 seconds, that would be fine. If you are kind of coming and, you know, you want to come to the UK Games Expo, then absolutely come by and chat to me for like half a minute. I would love that. But, you know, longer, and I might start thinking, oh, I've got a lot going on here. And like Frank, like I was there at their stand, I said hello, and then like after 15 seconds, it was, well, I'll be on my way. Lovely to see.
Yeah.
That's a nice interaction.
Yeah.
There aren't any major regrets, but there's always wee things that we would do differently. And when you've got appointments with people, then yeah. And to me over there says, golf courses all over Europe. Fear the name Poirot. Hercule Poirot. With a Belgian accent.
Saying that, Murder on the Links, also a pretty good story. It's about a golf course.
If you want to check me out, of course, I am Stuff by Bez pretty much everywhere. I will be retooling my web shop in the next month, but also Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. If you want to check out my Discord, stuffbybez.com/Discord. And if you want to know what I'm up to in future streams, check out stuffbybez.com/streams. I don't think I've got anything until next Monday, but tomorrow I'll actually add it right now. An unboxing. There you go. It's in my
unboxing.
So we'll have
excitement.
an unboxing of the things that I've not unboxed yet. It'll be a fairly quick thing. And share, spread the word. Also, share, spread the word of where you might find Jess. Jess, where would you like to be found?
I am generally found most on Twitter. Come to Descent Games, look me up there. You can also go to the Library Labyrinth website, librarylabyrinth.com. You can go to the Disarm the Base website, disarmthebase.com, which is a good sort of it's a sort of a snapshot of how Disarm the Base happened. But yeah, basically find me at Descent Games. That is who I am. Mainly Twitter, but I also hang out on Facebook as well. And there is an Instagram, but we don't respond that much to the Instagram. But yeah, Twitter is where it's at for me.
Instagram is definitely hard, especially because with the stories, which a lot of people use, it disappears after a day. So it kind of forces you to look at it every day. And if people post more than once every couple of days, I start thinking about unfollowing them. Like if it's like someone did post 8 things, this morning, and I was like, oh, that's a lot. But it was
feels like too many.
UK Games Expo, and it was like all the different people. But even so, it was like, oh, you could have spaced this out a bit. But
yeah, I mean, they're not going to keep on posting that number, which is good.
So like, but then if they post again, like, to be, oh, no, this is too much for me. Because when I log on once a day, I want to just spend less than a minute going through and really engaging and appreciating pictures. Then if I feel like I have time and energy, carry on scrolling for maybe another couple of minutes. But that's when the algorithm starts suggesting stuff to me. But with the people that I follow, I see literally everything. Hello to, I think that's Jonathan at the Hexy Beast. Was good to see at UK Games Expo. Was so busy this year. Yes,
particularly earlier on.
Less busy than 2019, but next year it will continue to grow.
Yep.
And that's been the show. Thank you so much,
Yay.
everyone. Thank you, everyone watching and everyone contributing with questions. Thank you to Jessica Metheringham. I do have to skedaddle, but for now, there's only one thing left to say, which is, of course, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Do, 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 bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Do, 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 bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is goodbye song. Do, 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 bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye. Bye-bye, Timmy. Bye-bye, Jess. Bye-bye, Hexy Beast, and everyone else who's watching. Lots of love. Bye-bye. I'll definitely, be doing that. Don't worry.
Keep the stretching.
Bye-bye, Robert.